Meanwhile, at Emory, they're experimenting with AI to bring more uniformity to the transcript. And probably, Michael, as I wrote in my book, this is really the most time consuming process or piece of the admissions process, right? Many institutions, for example, they recalculate the GPA, and that part has been done by a machine for quite some time now. So that's not new, but at many universities, they're still going to look at course selection, and they might count up the number of courses that were taken across disciplines. They might count up the number of AP courses, for example. All that stuff takes time, and that machines can really help do that, perhaps, right? And that's one thing that Emory is looking at in terms of AI, trying to kind of make the transcript across 25,000 high schools that we have just in the U.S. alone much more uniform. And then the other piece of this, I think, is the data that they know about students coming from high school. So the thing to remember, especially at bigger institutions, more selective institutions, is that college applications and applicants, I should say, kind of travel in clumps from high school, right? So a college is probably going to enroll a number of graduates from a particular high school. And remember, they're going to probably do that year over year after year. And then they could follow those students on campus once they get on campus. And so what they could really try to figure out is, okay, what does a 3.9 high school GPA at, Wyoming Valley West High School, where I went in Pennsylvania, what does that really mean at our college? And so this could actually provide some guidance to them, especially when everyone's worried about grade inflation, that when they're looking at Michael Horn from Whitman High School in Bethesda and Jeff Selingo from Valley West High School in Plymouth, right, Pennsylvania, they can make those comparisons more easily having this data. And, institutions are already using this, right? When I was inside the admissions process at the University of Washington, application readers there used GPA comparison tools for nearly every high school that they had in the state, because they obviously had a lot of in-state applicants. They had some from out of state as well, and the tool basically compared the average GPA of prior students who enrolled from a specific high school and then their GPA after freshman year at the university. And the data could indicate then, for those reviewing the applications, how grades in one high school translated into grades at the university. And again, I think this process is just much faster using AI. And so those are the ways I think it's already being used, or at least being experimented with now. But I think one other thing I wanted to mention here, Michael, because I think the real next frontier in admissions is around data and how we use data using large language models and AI models, right? Colleges, as we know, they have vast amounts of data on enrollment and student success. So I think the next step now is to develop AI, using AI to develop, okay, what segments of students are more likely to enroll and persist here? So then you can assist in customizing the enrollment process with tailor-made communications and engagement. You could include personalized financial aid awards to improve yield, for example. Now, I think there may be some worry out there. I think when people hear that, well, does that mean they're going to reject a student, for example, if they know they're definitely not going to succeed at the university? And that does worry me. But I'm wondering if this also could be turned a different way, right? Could you know that, not to pick on you, Michael, so I'll pick on me, right? Somebody like Jeff Selingo is just not going to succeed at this university. But there's so many things that we like about his application. So we're going to bring him in, but we know from day one that he may need help in these areas, right? So it's, so many universities around student success now, have the red, yellow, green lights around trying to be much more attuned to student success, once students are on campus. But what if you're more attuned to student success even before we arrive on campus? Imagine what that can do. And then just one last piece of data is, what if AI analyzed, real-time labor market data to assist colleges in building, new academic programs and skill-based credentials that certify learning? Just imagine again how AI can help us design these new programs much more quickly than we do now.